All right, everybody, welcome to March Tea and Tarot. Today, we are going to be unboxing the Golden Wheel Tarot, and it is by Mila Losenko. It says on the back, inspired by the magic and wisdom of Russian fairy tales, Tarot of the Golden Wheel interprets traditional tarot through the prism of colorful Slavic folk culture. In this radiant deck, the golden wheel, a sacred symbol of karma, the sun, and the infinite cycles of life, conveys the fool on his journey through the major and minor arcana. So I'm learning how to do unboxing. You have to leave the plastic on until the time. So now I'm really pulling into the plastic that holds this deck together. And we're going to have a look. And this was gifted to me by one of our temple members, Valeria, who sent also a separate little book called Slavic Tarot Spreads by Masha Lapierre. It's just a little booklet, and it says Masha Lapierre is a second-generation Ukrainian American who has created several tarot spreads inspired by the Slavic fairy tale worlds they grew up with. All of these spreads can easily be used with your favorite tarot or oracle decks. May they guide you through your journeys. So, oh, and here's Valeria now. So we've got this deck and this booklet that were sent here. And so we're going to take a look at them today. So I've opened the cover of the deck, and on the top there is a nice substantial guidebook. It's not just like a little folded up piece of paper, which is great because I think the if we were to have the just like a little folded up piece of paper, it probably wouldn't do these fairy tales justice. And the booklet is called Slavic Fairy Tale Tarot Spreads, Lisa. That's and it's got a firebird on the cover. So now let's have a look at the cards. Oh, the cards are also in plastic, so we get one more plastic unwrapping here. Let's get this open. I may need to bite it. We'll see. I don't have long nails anymore, so I have to bite everything. All right, so let's have a look. And what we'll do with this deck is I'll kind of piece through and show you some of the cards, and we'll look those up. And then we're going to practice one of these tarot spreads today. So let me move this plastic to the side. So the back of the cards are gorgeous. There is this beautiful golden design that has all kinds of symbols. It's a big solar disc symbol. It looks like one of these carved wooden plates. It actually is similar to this plate that I have here because I have my little eggs for spring. But if you see, these kinds of plates are really popular in Poland and probably other places as well. Carved wooden plates, and sort of got a symbol of the sun reminiscent of one of those carvings. And you see these designs in other things as well, in paper cutting and in other motifs. Okay, so it starts with of course, I'll show you the Fool. I love this Fool. This Fool is taking, I'm going to make my picture bigger. I'm going to put a spotlight on so that you can see. Oh, it won't let me. I guess you have to just put it in speaker view. I'll do that. And how do I do this? Okay, that's putting someone else on. This is so strange. It's kind of not doing what it normally does. Sorry. Zoom is acting funny today. Okay, here we go. So here is this Fool card. And what I love is that he's reaching up as he's taking his leap. Behind him, there is a, looks like a crown that's fallen off his head or a wreath of some sort. So I'm going to look in the book since we're starting with the Fool and see what's the meaning of this particular Fool. So the Fool does not necessarily represent any particular mythology. It looks like the Fool represents instead, it doesn't sort of say, you know, any particular myth, but it looks like the Fool kind of represents us. It says, as Mother Earth awakens from a long winter sleep, flowers and grass begin to grow towards the warm sun. The whole world is covered with a spring green carpet from edge to edge. A young fresh wind rushes over the vast meadows, and you race with him, not understanding the road. You are a child of nature, a youthful and pure creation of the sacred spring. You are inspiration, strength, and naivete, fury and fearlessness. Your life is a blank slate. You spread your wings, try your strength, and you're ready to fly like a bird. Your leap is the beginning of the path into the unknown. No plans, no thinking, no doubt, only forward motion. Fool, exclaims one. Hero, others will call you. But the strength of your soul will not leave anyone indifferent. Your path begins here. And then it gives meanings. Upright, it means new life cycle, journey, activity, great potential, creative chaos, nonconformity, irresponsibility, naivete in business matters. And in the reverse, it can mean imprudence, dangerous situations, mad deeds, extravagance, infantilism, carelessness, and adventures. So looking at this card, we see on his shirt, there are several of the golden wheels similar to the solar disc on the back. They're distinct. They're not all exactly identical, but in size, you know, they're bigger and smaller, but they're still very similar to that golden wheel. So our magician, look at this very powerful magician card. He's standing, he's got his potion in the cup before him. He's holding the wand and the sword crossed above his head, which is very interesting. It's it's kind of reminiscent of a two of swords in a way, just the posture of it, but behind it is this big solar disc representing the pentacle. I love this card too. And I wonder who this is maybe meant to represent. I can see certain ones are very clear, but other ones are not necessarily. Okay, so, you know, the Fool is considered to be a folkloric character, Ivan the Fool, a man who looks at the world differently than other people, he's bold, noble, and full of energy. And along his journey, he meets guides from other worlds. So this is one of the guides. And I'm just looking to see if it'll tell us if there's anybody in particular that this magician is representing, a deity or a folk tale person. It doesn't say, but this is all about sort of, you know, turning our minds toward our magic and the power that we carry within. And it shows the balance of all the elements represented in the sword, the wand, the cup, and the pentacle. And we're going to just do like the first 5 here, and then I'm going to start skipping around. But the first 5 are pretty important. So this one, the High Priestess, is amazing. Says she is the keeper of the key, and she has an owl companion, and she's sitting in a kind of a forest bower, but above her is wood carved logs reminiscent of the protective roof carvings that you'd see on a cottage. So I'll show that really close so you can see how the protective marks are carved into the wooden posts there. And you can see her owl, and she's crowned with some greenery. She's got some, looks like some beaded ornaments dangling down from her crown. She's wearing a belted dress with embroidery around the top, and that embroidery is reminiscent of the Slavic protective talismanic embroideries that we see that often represent like water or grain or goddesses. And she's holding a big key. So she's here, and her owl is perched on a piece of wood that looks like it might also be a walking stick. And of course, the High Priestess means the things that we know her to mean: mysteries, secrets, hidden factors, deep connection, uncertain relations, empathy, insight, introversion, patience, intuition, meditation, and the reverse: disclosure of mysteries, prejudice, intrigue, insensitivity, impatience, arrogance, narrow-mindedness, loneliness, or manipulation. So she's got kind of her severe aspect, and her face is not like super soft. Her face has kind of got a sobriety to it. Now, the contrast between the High Priestess and the Empress really is so vivid in the colors. The High Priestess is done in those kind of moody blues and greens that help us to see the kind of tone that she represents, the inner world, while we have in the figure of the Empress, she's wearing a multi-layered round skirt that's been embroidered with big flames or fans. She's got the very classic necklace of the married woman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-strand necklace. What's the name of that necklace? It is in the Ukraine, it's a namisto. These beads are on a necklace like this are made of coral usually, but they can also be made of ceramic and wood, but the classic ones are made of coral. And the more strands you have in this necklace is meant to symbolize your good fortune. So somebody who's wealthy will have multiple, be able to afford multiple strands, or somebody might save up so that they can get she can get a multi-strand necklace like this. And married women wear these. It's almost like a protective covering for the neck. It keeps it kind of the décolletage hidden or veiled, but not fully covered, and is meant to connote in the red color fertility, life force, good luck and good fortune, red being a color of vitality. It looks like she's also got on a blouse with big puffy sleeves. She's got a woven headdress with grain and flowers with a big sunflower. She's holding a cup in one hand, and she's seated on a throne in a field of grain. This is classic depiction of abundance. Grains and grain weaving is symbolic of abundance and protection. And she's got, kind of got a heap of them. I can't help but notice that in the background are birch trees as well. And these trees often represent the rune Berkana, which is a rune for fertility. So throughout Eastern and Western Europe, the birch tree is thought of as being related to fertility, abundance, magic, and good fortune. And so that's in the background there. She's got long, long braids, and those braids are tipped with metal ornaments. So where the high priestess, her hair is flowing free, in the Empress card, her hair is braided. And covering one's head, braiding one's hair, tucking one's hair away, wearing the namisto, these are all often symbols of marriage. And it does look in a way like she's kind of perched on her betrothal throne. And then here's her emperor. And don't they make an amazing pair? Her emperor. Now, green, just so you know, in Slavic talismanic embroideries, red is often used to connote fertility. Black can be used to chase away infertility. Green is used for male fertility. So red is often for female fertility and green is for male fertility. I was just reading an article about these talismanic embroideries this morning, and here it is, the color symbolism, boom, right here. So he's got this pattern. Now you notice that her pattern is like dancing flames or fans. His pattern is this really distinctive kind of geometric shape. And again, we see a lot of that geometric shape in the talismanic embroideries. In fact, I'm going to pull up a picture of these talismanic embroideries that from this article I was looking at today, so that you can see what I mean. It's in here. It'll just take me 1 second to load it. Talismanic embroidery. And these embroideries are done, here we go. These embroideries are done with different types of thread. You can use cotton, wool, or silk. You can use flax as well, but what I was reading this morning is that, cotton is like all purpose. Wool is specifically for particular types of protection. Silk is especially for chasing away bad relationships, negative energies of gossip, anywhere that relationships have soured. They would use silk to embroider a talisman. So take a look here, and I'm going to hold up our emperor again, and then take a look at it next to some of these images of these embroideries. Do you see with my finger, I'm pointing here, do you see this one right here? Very similar to this one, somewhat similar to these others as well. So he's holding a raven. No, he's holding a hawk. It looks black, but it's actually not black. It's actually brown spotted hawk perched on a falconer's glove on his hand. So it's a symbol of freedom. The falconer is, has the ability to command the winds, through working with their birds. They're considered to have command of the element of air. And the emperor is sitting in his throne, and his arms of his throne are decorated with a similar golden solar disc representing wealth, good health, prosperity, status. And then the hawk or falcon here representing authority. And in, I'm not sure in Russia, but in Poland, it's the falcon is right on the flag. It's a huge symbol for Polish people, the falcon, of self-determination, liberty, personal authority, personal freedom. So our emperor and empress make a wonderful couple. Their colors are very harmonious with each other. They're depicted in the colors representing the sun, good health, good fortune. And finally, from here, the major, from the major arcana, the Hierophant. So I love this. The Hierophant is depicted in a grove of trees, but the trunks of the trees have been carved with apotropaic and protective symbols. And he has a guardian carved above him, where he's wearing an outfit all in red and white. And one of the things that many of us, have seen the articles around Christmas time about how, what if Santa is a shaman, and the red and white outfit is the shaman's outfit. And it's in fact, based on reality, that in parts of Russia, especially in Siberia, there are many shamans who dress in red and white. There are a lot of them who dress in different colors as well, but red and white together are considered very shamanic colors, with sometimes the red representing blood and the white representing semen. Sometimes the red represents blood and the white represents milk. And here's Valeria has a shirt. Care to share a little bit about your shirt with us?
This is a Ukrainian embroidery, traditional embroidery. My mom's best friend mailed it to me. My mom gave it to me. It's so funny that you said this just now, because she just gave it to me. Take it, it will protect you. I'm like, Mom, I'm not gonna wear it. She's like, take it, it will protect. And you just said it, and it was just sitting right here. I was like, and what's funny too, like you see so you see the cranberries that are when you were talking about Namisto, the thing that we did as children, because we didn't have corals, or we would take dried cranberries and we would thread them with, and that would be our Namisto. And so that's what we would make. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it was just funny.
I love it. And that's kind of how you practice for when you have Namisto later.
Yes, but also see, like it has red and black. So it's very protective.
Very strongly protective. And black is considered a protective color, whereas in the Western occult tradition, especially in the US or in American hoodoo, African American hoodoo, we see black often as a color of banishing, or of working on some kind of like revenge or justice. In the Slavic countries, black is considered protective. And if you look at mythologies, and thank you so much for sharing that beautiful, I hope you will wear it to ritual someday with us.
Now I have to. I think it was meant to be mine.
Yes, and it will protect you. I have to say, if you ever have to go for like a big test or something, wear it.
Take my drum and the shirt and I'm all set.
You're all set. But everywhere you go, anybody who, if you go anywhere in the world, you're going to find again and again and again these four colors: red, white, black, and gold. Red, white, black, and gold. They are everywhere. And you find the red and white, you find them in the alchemical tradition of the Middle Ages. You find them in the Mayan solar cross, the four directions. You find them in the medicine wheel. You find them in the Celtic tradition. You find them in the Slavic tradition. You find them in the tantric traditions. Red, white, black, and gold. Often they have sometimes different meanings, like sometimes white is considered purification, red, fertility, black, transformation, gold, wealth, health, and the outcome of manifestation. You find it in the Tibetan tradition, where the different colors of Tara, but they also add in blue and green. So if you just, kind of search the whole world over, you're going to find these colors, red, white, and black, and then often gold as a kind of set. They travel as a crew. So those are the, aspects of this. And I see other things, like he's got, in these carvings behind him, there is this kind of tree lore. I don't even know how to put it, but the Celts would have called, the people we think of as the Celts, the people of Ireland and kind of Northern Europe, in that part of Northern Europe, those people who are Druids, I don't know what the name for them is, but Slavic cultures have this thing too, have people who communicate with trees, and people whose work is specifically, magical work is specifically around trees and tree spirits. And so the carved essence of his guardian or his guide, and all of these, and you can see like this one and this one, they've been lopped off and turned into something similar to what we might in the US recognize as a totem pole, but it's not exactly the same. They're not used exactly the same way, but they're very similar in a lot of ways, in that they represent kind of these natural monuments. And in fact, I read in a book by Sophie Hodorowicz-Knab about Polish herbalism, that in Poland, it isn't considered kind of unreasonable for a family to have some sort of a relationship with a particular type of tree, like a birch or a linden or an oak, and that the family will be like, we are of this type of tree, we associate with this type of tree. And then in a grove of that type of tree, there will be one tree that the family really associates with, where they bring offerings. It's their beech tree, or it's their linden tree. And so it looks like he's in his forest dwelling, protected by these family trees and the trees, spirits of his ancestors. And that's, in part what these carved trees represent. I'd also just like to point out that there's a wonderful artist on Etsy who does these type of carved wooden statues. I have to remember the name of his business. His first name is Jaromir, and he couldn't be nicer. I'm going to go and show you something. I ordered this statue from him, and this is on my Roshanica altar, and this is her embroidery symbol. This is how you know it's Roshanica. And she is also given, this figure is also given other names that generally represent fertility. You can see here, she's got a babe in her womb. She's holding her full round belly. Her breasts are full. She's got this fertility symbol of the goddess here, crowned with a star. They're beautifully carved. He carves them all by hand. He doesn't carve it until you place your order. So I'll share with the group, when I post this video, the link to this fellow's Etsy store. And, when you're shipping something from Russia, it can take anywhere from a month to 6 months to get here. So this one took like 6 months to get here, but it arrived just in the perfect magical time. I'm going to keep her on the altar over here to continue to inspire us. So take a minute now and tell me, I'm just loving this deck so far. I know, aren't they gorgeous? I'm enjoying this so much. Tell me what cards you want to see, since I don't have time to show really all of them. Let's just, put into the chat, is there a card, major arcana, minor arcana, in any suit that you really want to see? And let's take a look and see if we can dissect the meaning of that card and what some of the symbols in it are. And okay, so we've got a couple. So we're going to say first death and then second the devil. Wow. Wow. Just like, and then the world. Well, good. Phew. It was like death, the devil. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at this death card. Oh my God. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's got a skull of a stag with herbs. Looks like mugwort, but maybe not. Maybe it's an oak tree. It could either be a young oak tree, it's probably a young oak tree growing out of one of the eyes. And that symbol for life after death, so powerful. And you know, there's a quote from that same book that I mentioned before, the Sofia Horowitz-Nab book, where she quotes a poem or a song that was popular during World War II. World War One. World War II. Popular during World War II, that was written by a Polish soldier that said, if I should die while I'm away at war, my body will go into the earth, go out next spring, take a rye stalk in your hand and kiss it. I live on in the growing grain. And the feeling of Slavic people of being one with the earth, even after colonization, missionary colonization has taken hold, is still very powerful. In the past, people would take vows, like their wedding vows, by putting a small clod of earth in their mouth, taking up a little dirt from the ground, putting it in their mouth, and then making their vows in their marriage ceremony or any vow between two people, to symbolize, here in the witness of the earth has heard me speaking this truth. So we have the loss here, but we also have the life rising again. And then somebody has asked for the devil. So let's go look. Wow. All right. So now our devil is white-haired. His hair is shockingly white. He's holding a knife in his hand, and there's a poppy growing in front of him. And it looks like he's scraping or has scraped this poppy to get some medicine out of it, or to get some probably opium out of it, which would make sense. And the flames are all around him, and they kind of make symbolic devil horns. At first, when I looked at this card, I thought he was wearing a turban because of just the shape of his hair. But if you look closer, it's actually his hair. And he's got kind of like a Harry Potter mark on his head. Looks like a lightning bolt is his part of his hair. But his face, he's completely consumed with his task. His knife is in his hand. There's the poppy, and it symbolizes our compulsions. And I'm going to just take a look at the author's explanation of this card, and let's see what we can see about it. So the key word that the author Mila Losenko uses for the devil is captivity. According to an old Slavic legend, on the night of the marriage of the water and the sun, the one who finds, the magic flower of the fern will be granted full knowledge of everything in the world. He will be able to see the treasures underground, to read the thoughts of other people, and will gain power over evil spirits. But this magical flower is guarded by an evil force, and the one who tries to abduct it from the forest awaits a terrible trial. Enraged spirits will drive him mad and will send horrible visions that can kill if the brave man turns around to look at them. This card tells us that our souls are killed by our consuming passions, burning desires, pride, and a self-destructive desire to achieve at all costs. These are like evil spirits that haunt us. Ambition and vanity, base instincts, The desire to become better than others are all entangled as if by a network of your mind, which overshadows your vision and can lead to destruction. In order to free yourself from this trap, listen to the voice of reason, and you will be saved from the captivity of your passions. So this is meant to be the fern flower, but it really does look like an opium poppy at the same time. It does have that kind of a look to it. And what he's doing is he's gathering the power from the flower, but it's consuming him. Very powerful devil card. Yeah, I love to see all the herbs, plants, and trees. Okay, so next we're going to look at the world. Maybe we'll do the star and judgment on the way to the world, just so that I can keep them in order. The star could not be more beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. Let me get the book ready. Okay. The keyword for the card of the star is dawn. And here we have the maiden of the dawn pouring the water from her 2 wooden carved bowls. Each carved bowl has a handle, but she's not holding them by the handle. After the darkness of night recedes, the dawn sun fills the world with warm colors and revives all of nature. Flowers bloom in the sunlight and birds sing their songs, filling the world with joy and vitality. Dawn represents the rise of the spiritual and physical strength, clarity of mind, and readiness for new challenges and creativity. The star card shows human connection with the celestial sphere. The star shape is not tied to the land, it is oriented towards the sky, to the celestial twin stars. This beautiful scene symbolizes the unity of the forces of nature, particularly a powerful connection with the sky. And our watery maiden is looking heavenward. She's wearing a simple shift, but she's got chemise, but it's got very elaborately ornamented sleeves. And all of this energy is really in her hands. She's pouring the water from the vessels out into the world as the dawn comes up behind her. A beautiful card full of hope and promise, and reminder that it's a new day. Yeah, interesting that she's standing all the way in the water, where often the star is on the bank pouring in, right? In like the Rider-Waite deck. So this is a departure from that, where she's fully in the water. And then let's look at judgment. Oh my God, I love this card. I love this deck. I'm so excited about this deck. It's so beautiful. The artwork is incredible. Thank you so much, Valeria. Really so appreciative of this gift. So judgment card, transformation. So this is a swan woman. This is a shapeshifter. She is one of the swan shape-shifting maidens. A wonderful white swan floating on the waves suddenly flaps her wings and turns into a beautiful woman stepping out on the deserted beach. Who is she? Is she the captive of the old curse, trapped by evil charms until this hour? Or did she choose the identity of a majestic bird by her own will? You do not know, but you feel that a miraculous rebirth has happened before your eyes, a phenomenal transformation from one form to another. Do you also crave change and new life? A different image or a different way beckons you. What secret talents and opportunities are hidden inside of you? The thirst for rebirth and renewal, the disclosure of one's abilities, the awakening of the mind and feelings. That's what this card reveals. You have long walked to your goal through thorns, and now your spirit is ready for transformation. And the swan, it again kind of shows up in, let's see, where do we find this myth? Hang on a second, let me just look. There's a myth about these swan women. Let me find it. Okay. In Slavic mythology, this is from an article called The Formation of Female Blends in Russian Folktales. In Slavic mythology, swans are treated as sacred birds. It's forbidden to kill them or eat their meat. The beauty and grace of these birds gives rise to legends about swan maidens who are supposed to be elegant, mystical creatures that rule the roost of nature. And there is a swan maiden story in Grimm's fairy tales and in various other legends. There's a key to her transformation is her swan skin, that if it's taken away from her will mean she can't shapeshift anymore. And this is interesting because it's very similar to the mythology of the Selkie, where there's this swan maiden, she can shapeshift at will, she meets a man, they fall in love, he discovers that she's a swan shapeshifter, he steals her swan skin so that she can't fly away, she's stuck with him, she marries him, has children, and then when the children are older, they go looking somewhere that they're playing, like in an attic or somewhere, and they find her swan skin where the man has hidden it, and they give it back to her. She takes it, immediately turns into a swan and flies away and leaves the whole family behind. In some stories of the Selkie, she takes her children with her. But in this story of the swan maiden, she doesn't. And it says if the husband is to find her again, it would be an arduous quest and often might be impossible, and he doesn't even try. Sometimes it says in this, in these stories, she flies toward the sky and is never seen again. And this is in, Slavic legends, it's in Germanic legends, and in the Gaelic story, there's also a swan maiden, but there's also the Selkie. So our rebirth is like getting our rebirth judgment card is like getting your swan skin back and being free to burst out of whatever has been holding you back. And then finally, the world card from our list of what folks want to see. The world card here, how beautiful. 3 women. Let's find out who they are. Are these the Zoria? Are they somebody else? Let's see. Let's find out. The world. Here is the tree of life illuminated by the radiant sun of life and the silvery moon. So one woman in the middle represents the person, the querent, while one represents the moon and the other represents the sun. I guess this woman in the middle might seem like she's the tree of life. And the sun maiden is looking up. The moon maiden is looking down. The color contrast is there, which is similar to the color contrast between the high priestess and the empress cards. So that similar color symbolism has been employed here. And it says, look at the cradle in which everything is born and disappeared. You have ascended to the summit of the world, where light and shadow, good and evil unite. All elements, all fates merge into the ring of the eternal cycle where one is impossible without the other. This is the point of ultimate clarity. Now you see the whole picture and comprehend the essence of all phenomena. You drank from the source of wisdom. You were freed from illusions and you accepted your true nature. Now you can understand your true place in the universe. You accept the universe and the universe accepts you. You join in the true harmony of existence. What I see in this card is that it really depicts, just in this one card, the cycle of, our highs and our lows, our ups and our downs, day and night, the waning half of the year, the waxing half of the year. And it's sort of, even though the world card in this deck isn't a wheel, but a tree, where often the world card has someone like within some sort of a circular symbol that depicts that sometimes you're at the top of the wheel and sometimes you're at the bottom. Nonetheless, this tree represents that, because this tree, the world tree, is the kind of pole or axis along which the upper world, lower world, and then our middle world can be accessed in a kind of generally shamanistic view. So it makes sense that there's a cycle depicted here, even in that the tree, but with the moon behind it, doesn't have any leaves. It looks like winter. The owl is the owl perched in that tree? No. What did I just think I saw? An owl. When I look at it on screen, I see an owl. And when I look at it here, I don't see an owl. That's really strange. This looks like an owl to me right here. But then when I look at the actual card, it's not, it's just a shadow. But interesting how that kind of is very reminiscent of that High Priestess card. This, like, see how it looks like an owl with the short tufted ears, like so clear right there sitting. And yeah, I'm going to keep my finger on it, but really, no, it's not. But she's also, just like in the first one, she's got her hair unbound. She's looking down. The tree is wintry. On the other side, the goddess with the sun behind her has the green leaves, how it's going to look here in Dunsmuir in like 3 weeks. And then in the middle, you see the changing colors, which that's where we live. We live in that dynamic change. So I think this is very powerful. And also the depiction of 3 women as the sort of representatives of cyclic existence is reminiscent of other sets of 3 women that we find in Slavic mythology, like the Zoria, the morning, noon, and night, or it's also represented in other world mythologies, especially like in the Fates, who, the Greek world and the Russian world have got a certain amount of dynamic exchange over time. So you're going to find there's these 3 fates kind of here. So that's our world card. Yeah. Now let's have a look. So let's take a look now at, Jessai has requested we maybe look at some of the suits. So she says, let's look at a 5 of Wands. Okay, I'm right here. I'm at the 3 of Wands. So I just happened to open to it. So let's look at the 5 of Wands. So in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, the 5 of Wands usually means it looks like a bunch of people kind of fighting with some sticks. And in this, we see it is that theme is represented, but it's a lot more good-natured. There's not a sense of negativity in this conflict. It looks like these 2 fellows are sparring, having fun, practicing their moves. The fellow behind them is like waving. The other 2 are looking on. There's swallows flying overhead. This is actually a pretty cheerful scene, even though it does depict a conflict, but it doesn't seem to be depicting the type of conflict that is debilitating or is, I don't know, how you'd say it, doesn't seem to be depicting a violent confrontation. It seems to be depicting more of like a friendly sparring. And in fact, the author says that her keyword for the Five of Wands is contest, a test of skill. This is really interesting departure from how I usually see the Five of Wands, because I typically see the Five of Wands as an actual conflict, like an argument, a fight with someone. But this is saying, no, this is like a friendly rivalry, a little bit of a desire to win, gaining rewards and authority, courage, a cheerful spirit, the willingness to test your strength, professional training, the development of activity or of abilities, and physical activity. So it's like a friendly competition, as opposed to it being a big, ugly fight, which I think is great. There is kind of like, I don't know, growing up in a Slavic family, there is kind of like a friendly one-upsmanship that's characteristic of social interaction. Like, oh yeah, you think that's so great? Well, how about this? And then somebody else says, oh, well, you think that's so wonderful? Well, wait till I tell you about this. And there is kind of that little bit of like, I don't know, like fish stories, that the fish gets bigger every time you tell the story. That's part of the, it's not bardic necessarily, but it's just part of the storytelling tradition. And so I see here, it's like, they're going to go home at the end of the day and they're going to all have a great story to tell about this friendly competition. And then let's look at something in the Suit of Cups. I just went to the Three of Cups. So I'm going to pick that one up. One of my favorite cards. So here again, we have three maidens, and they look like they're having a nice time. They're toasting. They've got big chalices. They're wearing flower crowns. Their hair is braided. Two of them have on the namisto, you can see, and one doesn't. And they're, dressed in, their chemise with the overdress. And they look like they're at a party. So let's see what the author has to say about this. Three of Cups. She calls the Three of Cups Harvest Festival. This card expresses carefree joy and gratitude, a friendly meeting, a family holiday, a pleasant event, receiving valuable positive experience, the joy of communicating with people, joint hobbies, recovery from illness, and happy times. And again, this is sort of a departure. It's not excluding weddings, but I often see the Three of Cups as representing weddings, celebratory functions. I love that she's kind of retermed this Harvest Festival. So let's look at one more card from each of the suits so that we get a good picture of each of these. I've picked the Page of Swords, and I'm going to get one of the Suit of Pentacles here, which in this deck is called the Suit of Wheels, appropriately. Oh, the 10 of Wheels. Fantastic. I'll take that. So let's look first at the Page of Swords. Here's this. He can barely hold his sword. He's like, got this huge, this is a young person. He's got this huge sword he's trying to wield. It looks big. It looks heavy. It looks like it's kind of pulling him a little bit. He looks like he's about to take a swing, but it doesn't look like a masterful swing. There's a lot of awkwardness in his body language here. He's kind of like off balance and trying to wind up for his swing, but it looks a little wild. And I often term the Page of Swords the successful student. That's somebody who's so motivated by learning and growing that they will take risks and they'll try, they'll take the initiative to learn. And So this card is, the author has called the Page of Swords Insight. This card illustrates an analytical mind, energy, skill, ability to quickly understand the essence of things. It's necessary to be cautious when making important decisions and signing contracts, so don't get off balance. This card can be about getting important news, having a difficult conversation, or a polemic that's like some kind of a written screed. And this card is ultimately about accepting responsibility. Taking up that sword is a responsibility. And he's standing in a wintry environment. Looks like snow under his feet. He's wearing boots and, just trying to get his balance. And then we've got the 10 of Wheels. So I often think of the 10 of Wheels as like what happens after the wedding. So the 10 of Wheels for me is usually depicts family, inheritance, habits that we get from our families, support that we might get from our families. So let's see what the author has to say. 10 of Wheels. Tradition. This card relates to business success and good family relations. And here we have a man and woman. They're both seated. They've got their faithful hound in front of them. Each of them is holding a wheel. They're both adorned in really fancy outfits with metallic accents. She's got beaded ornament hanging from her temples. So this card relates to business success and good family relations, the desire to do right by family, home, and personal affairs, attachment to traditions, home coziness, lasting foundation, and excellent reputation, a comfort zone. So it's sort of like the ideal is attained, everything that one has been working for, and that one is creating something that will outlast the kind of temporary fads that come and go. This is based on something more durable, more eternal, more kind of traditional in a sense, something that's passed on and carried on. And they're also both wearing very traditional outfits with very traditional headdresses. And Lisa asks if we can please show the Queen of Swords. Yes, no problem. Last one, and then we're going to do a reading using one of the spreads from this booklet. So let me go find the Queen of Swords. That's wands. Okay, here we go. 10 of Swords, Knight of Swords, Queen of Swords. Wow, she's amazing. I'm so glad we took a look at this. She's got a fantastic headdress. Look at this. She's got like this amazing headdress. She is fully seated on her throne. She's holding in her left hand a large sword. In her right hand, she's got a scepter. Her right elbow rests on a book. So there's knowledge, wisdom, learning, warriorship. That's right. And also regal kind of rulership. I know Lisa says, I need to get this deck. Very regal bearing. And she's got a very serious face. Her face is like, it's funny when we look at like Dharma tankas, like I have, here's one right there. Several of the Dakinis and several of the wrathful forms of Tara, the warrior protector forms of Tara, have a face that is like mildly wrathful and mildly amused at the same time, kind of like a little like, bring it, a little confrontational. And I just want to show you her face. She's got that same kind of expression. It's steely, but there's like a little mirth or like a little like bemused, like raise of an eyebrow or something here that's like, oh, really? You think so? She knows who she is. She's not afraid of anybody. And let's see what the author has to say, because I'm really enjoying these interpretations of the cards. The Queen of Swords in this deck, Lisa, represents independence. This card is about insight and the ability to give valuable advice, self-esteem, careful choice in partners, a logical and sober mind, fairness and objectivity, weighted solutions and high intelligence, career and ambitiousness, and the ability to handle adversity. This is not her first rodeo. She's been around the block. She knows what she knows. She's earned it. She's learned it the hard way. Very, very powerful card. So in this booklet by Masha Lapierre, Slavic Fairy Tale Tarot Spreads, there are a number of different spreads. I think what I want to do is to pick one. They're all good. So I'm gonna read aloud what the spreads are, what we can choose from, and then you vote in the comments. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it, Lisa. So I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So pick a number between 1 and 9 and put it into the chat. Just put them in and don't look at anyone else's numbers. Just type your number and hit go. We've got a 3, 6, 6, 9. Okay. We have 2 votes for 6. So that's the one I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the number 6 spread is for the Domovoy. The Domovoy is the house protector spirit. And so this reading that we're about to do is going to be for each of us to get some guidance for what we might do to have a better connection with our house protector spirit. The Domovoy usually lives in or near your wood stove. In fact, let me go see if I have mine. I'll be right back. Just give me 1 second. On my wood stove, I keep, I have at my wood stove a miniature little wood stove for the Domovoy. And I got this little, so there's his little stove. And I got this little doll, and I put him with his stove right underneath my wood stove. And I've had this ever since I first learned about the Domovoy. This is how I learned actually about the Domovoy. I had no idea about this house spirit protector until I was about 12 years ago, no longer now, like 16 years ago, when I was living in Berkeley. I had read about like protective house spirits and read about a whole variety of them. And then I went to sleep one night, and in the middle of the night, or not like middle of the night, but like toward morning, I had a dream. And in the dream, there was this little gnome man who walked. I just dropped the whole thing, but there was this little gnome man, and he was wearing muddy boots, And he walked into my house. He was very small, like about this big. He walked into my house, looked at my fireplace, made like a harumphing noise. He didn't like the way my fireplace looked. It had ashes and stuff in it. He then climbed up onto my bed, walked up my body on top of the sheets, leaving muddy boot prints on my sheets, stood over me with his hands on his hips and says, why are you lazy girl laying, why are you laying there like a lazy girl? Get up and be a witch. And then stomped away. And I woke up from that dream and I was like, oh, and so I thought, what is this? So I went and started looking up about house spirits of the hearth. And then I found out about the Domovoy. And so even though the Domovoy is said to be kind of, attached to a particular hearth, I've brought mine with me because I've moved 3 times since I lived in that apartment. So then the next like week or so, I was out and I saw this little guy and I brought him home and I put him, and he gets little offerings. I put a little vodka, I put a little milk, I put sometimes a little water, I give him a little cookie. And, I just ask him to protect my home and watch over my home. And Domovoy don't like it when your house is dirty. They do not like it if you they don't like if you have cats, but I have a lot of cats, but we seem to have made peace. There used to be a cat that would steal this little doll and carry it around in his mouth. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. And so I took it away. And then I managed to convince the cat not to take this little guy out of his altar anymore. So now we've achieved Domovoy and cat peace, for now anyway. And so I just think it's really interesting that we had 2 votes for, if you don't have a wood stove, where does it live near? Then you would maybe make a little altar next to your cooking stove. Wherever the hearth is, where you basically prepare your food, that's like the heart of your home. So even if you don't have, like lots of people nowadays don't have a wood stove in their house or a fireplace in their house, so they might put a little shrine right next to their cooking stove. And you give a little food and a little butter, a little meat, a little milk, a little vodka, a little tea. That's the kind of things that they like. So I think it's pretty funny that we chose this Domovoy spread. So it's 3 cards. And the cards are, what are you going to offer? Who or what will the spirit manifest as? And what will it try to warn you and protect you about? So I'm going to get these cards. I'm going to give them a shuffle. Great Mother, Holy Mother, wise and gentle Mother, abundant and loving Mother, protective and healing Mother, I call to you. I'm here today with the Tea and Tarot class, and together we're seeking information and guidance about this Domovoy spread that we're trying out for the first time today with the Golden Wheel Tarot, which we're also trying together for the first time today. And we're seeking a message asking, how will we offer to attract or to calm or to please a house spirit? What will the spirit manifest as? How will we know that the spirit is there? And what will the spirit try to warn and protect us about? And we call upon all the benevolent ancestors, guardians, and guides who walk through this life with us. We ask you to be here now and guide this reading. We come to this reading together today with courage and strength, honesty and integrity, love, compassion, and gratitude for the journey of life. And may what we learn here today be of benefit to everyone in the Tea and Tarot class. And turning outward, may what we learn here today, in some way, great or small, also be of benefit to the entire universe. For Tea and Tarot. So 3 cards. 1. Oh, Queen of Swords came up right away. 2 and 3. Oh, 10 of Wheels came up. Okay. So what will we offer? So the card that comes up, what will we offer, is the Queen of Swords. So let me read just the divinatory meanings from the book again. I won't read the whole long thing, but I'll just read the short divinatory meanings. Remember that her keyword is independence. Upright, she represents professionalism, and these are all upright. Professionalism, analytical mind, and individualism. Reversed, she represents artifice, mistakes, and malice. One of the things that I think of about the Queen of Swords is that she is a truth teller. So if I were to think about an offering that I might make from a Queen of Swords perspective, it might be that, like, we have different ways we could see it. It might be that I would say, you know, I'm going to be 100% honest in my words, thoughts, and deeds. I'm going to be truthful. I will, you know, communicate fairly. I will be direct. It might be that we might say, sort of take a look at her book that she's leaning on and think, oh, you know, I will offer, my offering will be my study of the Domovoy, or my study of the myths associated with house protection in the Slavic, various different Slavic traditions. We might look at her sword and think, I will offer my defense of the vulnerable. We might look at her scepter and say, I will offer my leadership in my home. Like, maybe you live with a messy roommate and you're like, nope, I'm going to, like, get us to the point where we're cleaned up. You know, the house is spick and span for our house spirit. Interestingly, the Domovoy has said that if you leave your house messy, he might come along and rip out your embroidery or pull the stitches out of your knitting so that you have to go back and do it again. Or if you've done sloppy embroidery or sloppy sewing, that he'll make it fall apart, so you have to do it again. So in a way, in the sword, I see that there might be something here about making a piece of embroidery using the needle. And I'll go find that article, as I mentioned, and I'll send it to you all, so that, you know, when I post the video, I'll post this article so that you can learn about, if you wanted to do like a cross stitch, or you can even look up online Slavic classic symbols cross stitch, and you can probably even find a kit. I have no doubt that there are kits out there where you could learn to do a solar symbol or something, you know, like a wheat symbol or something like that. So those are some of the possible offerings that we might make, is our truth, our direct word, our intellect, our leadership, our creativity in the form of a stitched talisman, our learning. So that's the offering that we're going to make. And a spick and span clean house. She's not taking any prisoners. She says, get in there and make your bed. What are you doing? So we're going to, you know, look at that. And then our next question, in what way will the spirit manifest? And the card that comes up is the 4 of Wheels. So the 4 of Wheels is often about kind of holding a precious treasure or keeping something aside for oneself. So let me go to the book here and read, what does the 4 of Wheels mean according to the author? So the 4 of Wheels, the key word is possession. This card expresses the obsession and desire to protect one's position. It points to an alarming mental state of an owner who fears for his property. loyalty to habits, conservative views, and the desire to establish boundaries and observe the established order. Financial stability, but at the same time, the possibility of excessive greed and selfishness. And some of the key words are ownership, protection, control, squandering, avarice, or financial difficulties. So here's my challenge to each of us, is to identify if there's anywhere that we feel like we've been wasting money. Is there anywhere we feel like we have an item that we've been holding on to for a really long time that we don't actually want or necessarily need anymore, but that item somehow has a story attached to it to make us that we think we're supposed to keep it. So we keep it and we keep going, oh, well, I should keep that because so-and-so gave it to me, or I should keep that because I've had it for so long. Maybe there's something that we've had for a long time that's like not actually something we need to keep anymore. And then, there's also a layer here with the Four of Wheels about like holding something for a rainy day, but the rainy day might never come. So you kind of like just are always holding on to it like it's precious. So is there anything that you're like, I don't know, like, do you need to burn the pretty candle? Do you need to like drink the bottle of, whatever it is that you've been saving for a special occasion? Do you need to make an offering of those things to your house spirit? Is there anything that you've been like holding on to so long that you think it's so magical and precious and I don't want to use it, but now that's got you not using it, so you're not accessing your magic with it? So go find, that would be my suggestion, would be to go find that thing and use that thing in your offering, and thereby maybe transform some energy that's being held somewhere in an object into kinetic energy. The other thing I'd say is to go look around and see, like, if you have like a treasure box, or if it's a metal object that, like maybe you have an object that you've held for a long time, it's got some significance to you. Maybe that would be an item you'd want to bring and put on your Domovoy altar if you choose to make one, that you're like, here, I'm gonna hand this over to you. Or maybe you go through your jewelry box and you find, Jessai says, maybe wedding china or crystal, something that's symbolic of your attachment to your home, your connection to your home. I'd also like to point out that, a lot of us have long project lists about things we want to accomplish in our homes. It might be cleaning project or repair project. There may be something here where instead of like waiting for the money to come to do the project, we have to actually put out some money to do the project, so that will free up space for more money to come into our lives if we're holding back over here and not letting it flow. Anyone else care to venture an interpretation of the Four of Wheels, guarding your treasure, possessions, if it's in the position of how will we know that the spirit is manifest? If you have something, if you think of something as we go along, don't hesitate to jump in and let me know. But I think, here we've got some potential of, looking for objects that we've held dear, or looking at something that's been on our to-do list for a while, and that if we just engage with that might be a method through which our house protector spirit will show themselves to us.
I just, when the question, it's funny how we interpret the questions. To me, when I saw the question, I thought, how will the Domovoy itself, their self, manifest to us, and how will we recognize? And I just thought if there is a card in tarot to show the energy of that spirit, is the Four of Pentacles, because it's all about guarding, creating safety, protection, really. And the way he's like with that chest, that's Domovoy is the same way. He's very
Yes.
persnickety, and he's like, this is mine. And and it's like, no, take care of it. And it's very, he's like this, he's always a little bit bad tempered, but like in a funny way, but also he knows to kick your ass if you're misbehaving. And
Yes, that's true.
you know what I mean? And that's sort of like that energy to me, like he's like him, it's like Domovoy himself, or that again,
Yes.
I keep gendering, but the spirit, but you know what I mean? It's almost always a male
Yeah,
spirit
they're
to me
usually
anyway.
depicted male.
Yeah, and it's so he's like, this is sort of like, it's almost like there's something about, because four is about order. So bring order
Hmm.
into your life, into your house, into your affairs, and when you bring order, Domovoy is happy with you, and they will reward you, and maybe they'll give you one of their treasures. It's sort of
Yes,
like,
that's true. And
that's what I
I
thought.
really hear what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. I can also see that Domovoy manifesting as a way to be like, no, save your money. You don't
Hmm.
need to go buying things. Cancel that Amazon order. You don't need that thing from Etsy. Just, keep your money, guard your money, protect your own money. So maybe you'd put a little treasure chest at his altar and put
Yeah.
your spare change in it,
Oh, that's a great idea.
and be like, here, this is your treasure, and I'll keep giving you this treasure out of my pockets if then you make it multiply, like
Mhm.
make my wealth multiply so that I always have money to put in your treasury.
Yeah,
And
that's a
then
great
you could
idea, actually.
use that money to hire a person to come help you with projects and cleaning so that your house is spick and span so that he won't take apart your stuff. So
Yeah.
what is he warning us about? What does he want to protect you from? So that's that third question. What will he try to warn and protect you from? And it's the 10 of wheels. So we saw this card typically is very good, represents the inheritance and tradition. Upright, high status, advantageous marriage and home. Reverse, damage, risk, and unreliability. I would say that really is totally classic to Domovoy, is protecting the well-being of the house and everyone in it. Protecting everyone's well-being and health and finances, and also protecting the things that keep the family together. Protecting the traditions and the um, little in jokes and the little pleasant things that can come up in a family that keep everyone united. That's what he's protecting. Protecting you from losing tradition. And I feel like, I'd like to say with my experience, once when I read, when I had my experience with my little guy and started to keep the shrine by my stove, first by my fireplace, then when I lived in a house that had no fireplace, I kept him in the kitchen. And then when I moved here to a place with a wood stove, now I keep him at the wood stove. Um, I will say that started me on a whole long trajectory of learning about the traditions associated with the hearth. And one of the things that I learned is that the fire is sacred. You never throw garbage in it. It would be considered the height of disrespect to throw your garbage in the fire, which is so in contrast to how it is like in the US, people burn their garbage all the time, or they'll, even in a fireplace, they use it to like get rid of stuff, burn their old papers or whatever. But you would never do that with your hearth fire. You might make a separate fire somewhere to destroy things, but you would never burn anything, a pollutant in your hearth fire, anything that would bring a negative energy into your hearth fire. So in our hearth fire, like I never put anything in there that's considered pollution. I only put things in there that will feed the fire, pieces of wax, fire starters, wood, fat. I never put water or anything like that. And then I just was taking this class, shamanism class, that said the same thing. Never put anything negative into the hearth fire. keep that as a pure fire. And so I think, in a way, when I started working with the Domovoy, he did connect me back to tradition. Because I didn't know that. And I had always used my fireplace to burn things I didn't want anymore. But he says, no, don't do that. You don't do that inside the house. You can take that out somewhere else. Any other thoughts about what the Domovoy might be trying to protect us from, or, offer us guidance about in relation to the 10 of Pentacles?
Can I just make a quick comment? I've been having some issues with my gas stove. And today, it just started clicking on its own. It started making weird noises. So I'm going to have management come in tomorrow. And I've been wanting to replace my stove for a very long time. It's old. And I feel like it's just really funny timing, because I feel like maybe a new stove might start new things.
Girl, I'd put a little thimble full of vodka, pat of butter, and a little cookie out there tonight next to your stove or on your stove, and say,
Yeah.
if you get me a new stove, I'll make a little altar next to the stove for you.
Actually,
Get me a new stove tomorrow.
No, I hope so. And I actually had maybe I'll ask it separately, but my mother also had our Domovoy back in Ukraine come to her in a dream and talk to her, but he looked different than yours. He looked like he had fur on his hands. It was a little hairy person. But she, after we left, it was this whole thing. But after she left and sold the apartment, she constantly talks about, I should have brought the Domovoy with me. I should have put him in a shoe. And she never did that. And if you have any advice on how to heal that relationship, or is it possible to, because he's probably still attached to that house, but maybe there's some sort of a farewell, great, thank you kind of thing that she could do. She's really she's literally like tormented by it.
Is she able to go stand in front of the building where she used to live?
That was back in Ukraine. She's in the States
Now she's here. So, I have a couple ways that I've transported spirits before. Of course, the easiest way is if you can have access to the original place so that you can go stand in front of it. But one thing you can do that we learned about in our Woman Shaman Priestess class is you could say to her, you know what? If she would be willing to maybe put out little offerings for him, and if she has like a photo of the old place that she lived, the old apartment, and maybe has like a couple items like a teacup or something like that that she had there that she could bring, she could make a little shrine, and then she could get like a little drum, or even just use, like a little hand drum, and just call to him and say, if you're attached to that apartment, then may it be that what I'm doing here is calling in the spirit of who's here. But if you're not attached to that apartment, if you're actually attached to our family, come live in my drum, and I'll drum for you. I'll put out offerings for you. I'll, give you some comfort, because we've been apart for so long. But I know I've read it in different places where some say it's attached to the family line, and some say it's attached like more like a, to the house.
I feel like it came to her in a dream. So I feel like there may be, and there's going to be no conflict if there's another spirit living in your current house. There's not going to be a conflict. I mean, how does that resolve?
Well, does she know that there's a spirit that's in her house already?
She doesn't.
Does she feel it? I imagine that here in the US, unless you put a spirit in a house, it's not going to be there in most American houses, because people here, whereas in the old country, people would invoke a spirit to live in their house, and then those spirits do occupy those houses. Here, a lot of our buildings aren't like that. They were prefabricated, just thrown up, and they don't have that kind of importance to being they're not attached to any one particular building. I think that here in the US, what we have to think about more are the land spirits and the water spirits that are very wild to us. you know, because we don't have generations of being here and establishing those relationships. So
Yeah.
for us, we're establishing in many sense, new relationships. So I think if it were me, I might put out items from the old house and
Mhm.
do a little drum journey and say, I'm going to try to contact you and I'm trying to bring you with me, and
Yeah.
maybe take, you know, things that were there and say, if you will come live in my drum. And then after the Domovoy has lived in the drum for a little while, she can say, now this is your house, live in the house with me.
And she can, so she won't drum because she doesn't drum, but can she use something else like a shoe or
Yeah, she
somewhere
could
to
use
put
like
a
a
box,
shoe
a
or a
nice
sock.
box?
Yeah, actually, a sock that she has worn or a shoe that she has worn would be
Okay.
the best. And she can get a pot
Mm-hmm.
and put some dirt in it
Mm-hmm.
and put the sock that she's worn
Mm-hmm.
inside of it, and
Oh,
then ask
in
him
the
to
soil.
come live there. And then eventually she can take out the sock, put that on the altar, take the dirt, put it in the garden or put it in a potted plant in the
Yeah.
house somewhere, so that he's attached to the earth that she's got.
Oh, okay. And then she can move that with her as she
And
moves
then
around.
she can move that with her as she
Oh,
goes,
that's
right?
phenomenal. Thank you. So, and she's been tortured by like 20 years. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she can't, she's like, I mean, she's not all the time, but you know, every time we remember the old house, she's like, oh, but the day he came to me and he talked to me and he helped me and I loved him. Like she feels so guilty.
Oh
So
my gosh, yeah. I mean, when I
yeah,
left the apartment where I had had that dream, I really relate because I grieved for 2 years after leaving that apartment
yeah,
because I had had such a powerful relationship with my hearth there. And then the apartment I moved into didn't have any fire. It was just like a modern prefab type building.
yeah,
But then when I moved here and I had my wood stove, I was like, oh, baby, you're coming out.
that's
We're
right.
doing this. Like, I'm bringing you back,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And I do feel like he did come. And I do feel like I have this house protective spirit. And I do find little things like done and undone. And sure, I have 4, now 5 cats. So it's totally possible that it's one of the cats who's done it. But
hmm,
you know, it has given me comfort. So I think it'll give her comfort. And
yeah.
Lisa has asked, how do you spell this? Lisa, you had it totally right in your spelling, Domovoy, except no A. It's an O. Domovoy is the spelling that's in the book. And so if you'd like to look that up a little bit more. And Josiah says, my family had a warning from our old house spirit. I had our oven door actually explode glass out at me in my old rental home of 14 years, a few months before we left for a trip to India. And upon our return, we quite suddenly found out the house was being sold out from under us as renters, and we needed to move. We had no idea what it meant at the time. Yeah, your house spirit will tell you for sure what's going on. Thank you for sharing. That's so powerful. Well, everybody, we're just at the end of our class today. I hope that you've had fun. I've enjoyed this so much. I can't wait to start using this deck in my readings. Valeria, what an amazing thing. Every May, I swap out my old deck for a new deck. And so I'm going to swap out the deck I've been using for the last year for this one. And this is going to be my
Oh,
2021 deck. I
oh
love
my
it
God, that's such an
so
honor, Yasha.
it's just
I'm
gorgeous.
glad that
No,
you love
really,
it.
the honor is all mine. Thank you for sharing,
My
especially
pleasure.
after we had that really stimulating conversation about how Slavic art is appropriated and it's kind of
Hmm.
becoming popular. And I feel so happy that we are able to support Mila Loshenko and
Yeah,
Masha Lepire or
yeah.
Lapire, their
They're
work.
both Russian, Ukraine, and the creator of the deck lives in the Altai Mountains, which is very close to Mongolia. And so I felt like maybe you'd connect to that because that's the place. She has a beautiful Instagram account if anybody wants to see. Her art is gorgeous. And I feel like for a lot of Americans, this is a great intro deck because it's not super heavy on the, you know, it's very mild, but
Yes.
you were able to find so much rich symbolism in it. So it has layers. So if you just you want a nice RWS decks with these themes, is there if you want much more depth. It also has that. So,
Yes,
you know,
it
and you,
does. And the meanings aren't so far off from,
no,
say, a Rider Waite that it would be very difficult for us to understand.
yeah,
Um, and Lisa says, my husband passed away in this house and me and the kids feel him here all the time. Could he be my house spirit? Well, ancestor spirits are usually separate from house spirits. The house spirits are more fae-like in a way. They're kind of more like the little people, whereas your husband is obviously a very strong warrior, protector spirit, guardian spirit of your family and your home. And there's no reason you can't have two or more house spirits, Lisa. I think this is really powerful. But you know what? If try putting your little Domovoy, maybe you can put your little Domovoy by your stove and he protects your house in one aspect, and your husband can have his little shrine with your ancestors and he protects the house in another aspect. He protects the bloodline and your family line, whereas the Domovoy protects the physical shelter. So thank you everybody so much. This is so wonderful today. Such a pleasure, and looking forward to next month. I'll share links to everything. I'll share links to the deck. I'll share links to the article about the talismanic embroideries, and I'll share the link to this video as soon as I get it uploaded. Take care. Bye.